This is Gilbert Andrew Garcia. Listen to my radio show, A Tip from Gilbert. Talk, inspiration, and prayer every Monday from 11 a.m. till noon on Houston's gospel leader, KWWJ. 1360 AM and streaming live on kwwj.org. Listen on the legendary KYOK 1140 AM and streaming live on kyokradio.org. KCOH 1380 AM on Same Geek Radio 95.1 FM 1460 AM and Aliento Radio 101.7 FM and 1540 AM. Call in at 832-570-8075 and follow me on social media. See you then. All right, Houston, this is Gilbert Garcia with another tip from me. Talk, inspiration, and prayer. Thank you, studio audience. We're going to be talking about lots of great stuff. We're going to have a really good show because, as everyone knows, we have an open seat for U.S. Congress with the late, great Mayor Turner's passing away early. And, of course, he filled the most amazing member of Congress, which is, of course, Sheila Jackson Lee. And when you're known as much as Sheila Jackson Lee, you just go by one word. And she was Sheila, right? Am I right? So we have Isaiah Martin here, who is a candidate now for District 18. Welcome, Isaiah. Welcome to the show.
I'm so excited to be here. Thanks so much.
It's going to be super cool. So, there's some people that just become larger than life, right? And, it's like Cher. She just had like one name. Madonna, just one name. Well, there's Sheila. She just had one name, right? Because she was everywhere. There are like 3 or 4 of her. And you were her chief of staff, right? Or for a period of time, weren't you on her staff?
I was her senior advisor.
Senior driver. Yeah. So how long were you working with her?
Oh, man. I started when I was in college and was there for pretty much 4 years.
No kidding.
Yeah.
Well, let me ask you this. And, of course, we all miss her.
Yeah.
We all miss her. And she's just incredible. What was it like? Because she was always like, quick. And she was always, what was it like?
She was amazing. I think that everybody in Houston knows her for her energy. Yeah. It was nothing to see her in Ukraine one day and the next morning at a toy drive.
Yeah.
Right. She showed that she could be more than one place at the same time. And look, I think that we're forever going to be missing her energy for what she brought to the city of Houston.
And obviously, you can't just become a Sheila Jackson Lee, although she kind of did. Right. You really have to develop seniority, learn the ropes. And that's what 30 years worth of serving, she's probably 30 years, does. So you're running for Congress. And, let's just assume that you win. Let's just do that. Mm-hmm. Is this going to be, are you going to be the next 30 years, the next Sheila Jackson Lee? To the extent there can only be one. But are you going to be the next Isaiah?
That's it. Look, I want to try to make sure that we can continue to pave our own lane and continue to do that. But we definitely want to honor the legacy that she has done for this district, as well as Sylvester Turner, Mickey Leland, as well as Barbara Jordan.
Yeah.
So
when you go back to that seat, it really was or is a historical seat.
Right.
If you go back to the great Barbara Jordan,
right.
It's just incredible, the legacy. Are you ready?
Of course.
Are you ready?
I'm fired up.
Are you? Well, let me ask you this. Everyone knows I ran for mayor.
Yeah.
And so I always admire anyone who will put their name in the arena and will work hard and cares about the people, et cetera. When did you decide? Actually, let me take a step back. When there was young Isaiah walking the halls of, where'd you go to high school?
Clearbrook.
Okay, when you were walking the halls of Clearbrook, did you ever say to yourself, one day I think I'm going to run for Congress?
Yeah, no.
Right?
No,
so
not at all.
When did it all of a sudden click for you that, I think I'm going to do this?
It really wasn't until I got to college, and it was a couple of years into college. I was just a regular high schooler, just hanging out with my friends, going to college first 2 years. But it wasn't until somebody close to me was assaulted. And that's what got my start. Yeah. I realized that there was a massive issue on college campuses with sexual assault. So we created an organization to go and fight to bring resources for students on our campus, and we did. And that was my start into politics, in which I then started to look at other issues that we could be involved in, and we continued that same energy of delivering for people.
Oh, I'm devastated to hear that story. But I guess the beautiful thing about that story is you could have wallowed in, the hurt of it all, but you used it for something good, which is to prevent it from happening to others, right? So, and where did you go to school?
I was at U of H.
U of H, at the main campus?
Go Cougs.
There you go. And let me ask you this. So when you did that, what did you learn from that experience? I mean, was it easier than you thought to get involved? Was it harder? Were there obstacles?
Well, I really learned that you have to just start from somewhere, and you have to be relentless. And so if one avenue is closed, you have to find new ways to go and reach your people. And so once I got in, I realized that people were more receptive than we kind of built this whole team in which we had so many connections that we could end up getting a lot of stuff done for the students at the University of Houston's campus.
How wonderful. And did you meet the Congresswoman, or did she, meet you? I mean, how did all that happen?
So it actually started, we were doing a voting initiative at U of H, and it was actually Mayor Turner who did this whole thing with us, in which we turned our football stadium, TD ECU Stadium, into a polling site. We did it.
Is that the first time?
That was the first time.
Wow, that is fantastic.
Yeah.
And did the numbers go way up? Because
of course
when you make it easy for young people to vote, when you make it easy for any group to vote, magic happens.
Well, I'll tell you why we did it. We did it because in the election before, in the primary election for 2020, right? This was when we had that big presidential primary. You had people waiting sometimes an hour, 2 hours to go and vote.
Can you imagine that?
It was crazy.
That's nuts. That's crazy.
Nobody wanted to go wait.
You got class.
Yeah.
You got to go work.
Yeah.
Got me to cut you off. Go ahead.
But 100%. So it was absolutely ridiculous. And so we ended up getting the stadium. We brought that 2 hour long wait time down to 5 minutes.
Wow.
That's how we do that. Yeah.
That is wonderful. We did something like that when everybody knows I went to Yale. When I went to Yale, there was in the city a polling spot for what's called the first ward. We had the ward system, and that was primarily Yale students. And then we brought it on campus, and the voting turnout exploded.
Yeah.
And it has ever since.
Yeah.
Because it makes perfect sense. If you make it easier, especially for young people who are so, they got class, they got to work. It's so beautiful to get them involved.
And that's the thing, though. And it wasn't just for young people. It was for staff that was there.
Oh,
it was
great
for
point.
people who lived near there.
Yeah.
It was really a hub for people inside of Third Ward because it was able to be accessible for people and they could go forward and vote quickly.
And how did you do it if it's in the stadium? Is there you got the dial thing and you got the little booths. I mean, was it right there outside in the stadium?
We did it in the stadium club. So
see.
we have a club that's like right off site, and it was a big, huge space, and it was really quick for people.
Oh, how wonderful.
Yeah, it's great.
And so tell me this. Tell me about your background when you were young. Were your parents involved in politics? Were they, and what do they think about you running?
I mean,
do they say, oh, son, or do they say, son?
Well, yeah. I mean, look, my parents weren't really that involved. I mean, they voted every election. They took us to go vote. I mean, I remember having the little "I voted" sticker that the little clerks would put on me. So, I mean, that was the extent of it. But look, they're excited about the campaign because
they gotta be
ready for the future.
Look, I have 5. Excuse me, what am I saying? There are 5 kids in my family. That I'm the middle kid, but my wife and I have 4 kids.
Yeah,
and it would be wonderful if one of our kids took up the mantle of public service, community service, and got involved and try to keep our legacy going. That would be a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
I would love that. And so you never really were bitten by the bug until that event at U of H.
That's right.
How wonderful. And so what did you do for the Congresswoman?
That was a Swiss Army knife, to be honest with you.
Yeah, whatever she needed.
Whatever she needed.
Well, that makes sense because that's the way she was.
Yeah, I mean, look, I started off carrying her purse and ended up her senior advisor, so I've done pretty much everything you could imagine.
I know exactly what that means in politics. I have done everything from carrying somebody's, bag to driving them around. Yeah. That's how you really cut your teeth, frankly, because it's all about having access to the candidate.
Yeah.
And if you're there, she's going to want her purse around. And so she's like, where's my purse?
Yeah.
I mean, and then you're with her, and then all of a sudden you're driving with her, and then all of a sudden you're preparing her notes, and you're preparing her speeches, or you're preparing her debates. And so then all of a sudden you become invaluable.
Yeah.
That's how it all goes.
Yeah.
How wonderful. Well, I would always tell everyone that, she and I ran for mayor and we were always great friends.
Oh, yeah.
Always great friends. And so we never, had any issues with each other, et cetera. At the end of the day, she always wanted to be next to me.
Yeah.
Whenever we had debates and everything, she would always, because you know how she is.
Yeah.
She has to get every detail ready. She wanted to make sure that she would tell them all, and I want to be next to Garcia.
Yeah.
I want to be next to Garcia. And it's always, I would always give her the proper respect that she earned.
Yeah.
I mean, she earned it, not just from me, but from everybody. And I always say the truth, which is we would not have gotten that $1 billion grant for the light rail had it not been for Cedar Jackson Lee. She was unrelenting on Secretary LaHood, who was, the Secretary of Transportation. And I mean, she was just unrelenting. And she would always tangle with John Culberson, who was Mr. Anti-Transit, just always would be willing to take him on. And are you going to be ready for that? Are you going to be ready for all those sorts of, there's a lot of rough and tumble. And sometimes you got to throw a few elbows.
That's right.
You ready?
Of course, man. We got to get ready to fight, man. It's going to be a really interesting 4 years. And we got to have somebody with a spine and a backbone that can fight back.
Amen. Let's go through educating the voters, not the voters, the listeners, who hopefully were all voters. And let's tell them everything. And there may not be everything known just yet, but there's going to be a special election somewhere. It'll be filling out this term and then a general election after that. Just go through it all so our listeners know what's ahead of them here.
Well, the craziest part about it is we don't necessarily know the date yet,
right?
Right? Because it's up to Abbott. So it could be in May, it could be in June, it could be in November, or somewhere in between.
There's no drop dead that requires him to do it by a date.
It's crazy, isn't it?
And of course, given the state of affairs in Washington, where whatever it is, a 1-vote margin in the House, I forgot what it is now. It's very, very tight, because some of the Republicans have now gone into government for the administration, that he's probably going to keep that seat open for a period of time.
Yeah.
So then y'all have no way to really know, we're just on a sprint, but are we on a marathon? You don't really know.
Right. I think the biggest thing, it also depends on some other stuff, because I know that Kathy Hochul in New York has a seat that she could potentially hold over for a while. So it really just depends on the state of where things are, and also what happens with this next special election in Florida. We got some Democrats up there that are running really hard to be able to flip those seats. So I think a lot of that depends.
Well, once he decides, and if you don't know these things, excuse me, but once the governor decides, all right, I'm making it up right now, we're going to have an election, and I'm calling it for July or whatever. How much notice does he have to give all the candidates? Is it 30 days, 60 days, or we don't even know that either?
We don't really even know that either.
Wow.
It's crazy. Look, it's got to be at least around like 45 days. But
he's got to be able to, because he's got to set it up.
Right.
And
it's almost like a European election, like a snap election. It's like crazy. He can basically call it whenever he wants.
Or in Canada right now, they're going to have a big election right away. Well, so, and obviously this is your time. But so I know as of right now, there's 2 candidates that are opponents of yours. And like anything else, I know you well enough to know that you don't view them as opponents. You just view them as, you're running your race.
Right.
And that's what you're doing.
Right.
Do you think there'll be more people jumping in?
You know what? It's tough to say, but I think ultimately I'm not really as worried about the opponent count. I'm worried about the voter count. And ultimately, we're just going to be working every single day to reach out and earn the trust of every single person inside of our district, because that's what's important.
And so the district is pretty big.
It's massive.
Yeah. Tell us all, where is that district, and just go through it all and what's in it.
It looks like a question mark, to be honest with you. It starts up near Bush Airport, goes all the way through Klein, a little bit, ropes down the Acres Home, has some pieces of the Heights, downtown Houston, Midtown, and then Third Ward as well. So it is really a big district, and it covers a lot of the city of Houston.
And there's a lot of, are there some cities that are outside Houston in the district?
Yeah, absolutely. Humble is part of the district.
Humble, right? Yeah. And let me ask you this. So how many people, roughly, because I'm not trying to put you on the spot or anything, are living in the district, and how many voters do you think we expect to turn out?
So it's probably around 830,000 people total in the district. Yeah, that's right. And then we're expecting about 56,000 voters in this election. So, but that also depends on when the election date is. A lot of is big factors in that, but it's really interesting how all of these little details can determine that.
And is it going to be an open seat? I mean, not open seat, an open election, or is it going to be the Democrats run, the Republicans run, and then it becomes a runoff, or et cetera, or whoever gets the nominations, or is it just everybody runs?
Well, so it's what we call.
We don't know.
Yeah, so it's what we call a jungle primary. So effectively, everybody's going to be in there, and then it's the top 2 people from there that go then to a second round. That's it.
Okay, so there is no. Maybe you run as a Democrat or Republican, but at the end of the day, everybody's running. The top 2 voters go into the runoff.
Right.
Well, because there's 3. With 3, it's possible it's not a runoff. But when you start getting 4 or 5, it's almost guaranteed to be a runoff.
Right.
So you've got to have the what do you call it? The stamina.
Yeah.
And the wherewithal, fundraising, and everything else to get going. Give everybody your information. I want to make sure we do the right thing. I do the right thing by you, which is, where's your website? Do you have any events, planned already? Go ahead and use this to tell everybody everything.
Absolutely. Well, you can go to my website at isaiahmartin.org, ISAIAHMARTIN.org. You can absolutely sign up to volunteer at Block Walk. We want to create the world's biggest phone bank, so we absolutely need your help in doing that as well. We absolutely have a deadline, so if you want to chip into our campaign, go to isaiahmartin.org. It's right there, and it's available for you to do that as well, because we're really trying to build a movement where we're bringing change right here to this district, because that's how we can build a movement that's ready for the future.
Wonderful, wonderful. So what do you think are the biggest issues that, and maybe it's too soon for you to know, although you've been working in the district, so you have an advantage of knowing on the ground floor what the issues are. But in general, what do you think the biggest issues are here in this campaign?
Well, for starters, I mean, we have more than 93,000 people that are inside of our district that are on Medicare.
Is that right?
93,000, 53,000 of which.
That's about 12%, 15%?
That's right. That's right.
Wow.
That's right. We have 53,000 people that have Medicaid and about 23,000 veterans in the district. So it's very clear to me that we have to tell folks in Washington to get their hands off our stuff. No cuts to Medicare, no cuts to Medicaid, no cuts to Social Security. And we have to be very active when we're looking at legislation, ensuring that there's no sneaky amendments that will go forward and defund these programs.
There's always sneaky amendments. Always. Houston, some of these laws that get passed are so long and they're so thick. You really got to go through them.
That's right.
Because that's where they get you. That's where they get you.
It's crazy.
And it's like, wait a minute, what is that? How did we vote for that?
It's absurd.
It's absurd. But, like anything else, democracy can be messy.
Oh, yeah.
But it's the best we have,
right,
on the planet to really, it is messy.
It's true. I mean, look, we just saw this. There was a budget that the Republicans just tried to go forward that has more than $800 million worth of cuts, particularly for Medicare, right? Like, that's what's in these bills. So we have to be very aggressive on these things. We have to be able to look at them, because when you are very focused on these things, that's how you can be able to catch stuff.
Wonderful. Well, hold that thought. We have a call now. Is there an Amanda there? Let's see who this is. Amanda, are you there?
Hi, yes, I'm here.
Amanda, what do you got for us? You got me, of course, and you have Mr. Isaiah Martin.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, as a fellow Coug, it really warms my heart that there are people.
Fellow Cougs.
Go Cougs.
Yes. I'm just happy that there are people advocating for our safety, especially because of the level of crimes committed on campus.
That's right.
I was just wondering, what are some of the changes you plan on implementing in order to make the campus safer?
Well, hold on one second, because let me ask you this, Amanda. When you're on campus, do you feel unsafe? I mean, is it that widespread? I mean, give me some color. Give me some info.
Definitely at night. There's not a lot of lights, like in these parking lots. It's just a little shady. And then, as a woman, if you're walking alone, it's just not exactly an ideal space to be in. I can imagine it being very scary. I can imagine.
It is.
What say you, Isaiah? What can we do to make U of H safer, or less people feel safe?
Well, there's a lot we can do. First of all, I definitely understand where you're coming from, because I've been hearing stories from students. There's been a couple of assaults on campus.
Is that right?
That's right. It's terrible.
Oh, my goodness.
It's terrible. And so what we need to do is do something at the federal level to be able to make funding available for us to hire more officers that can be in our parking lots, that can be available to help students. I think it's very important that we bring this funding here. I also want to do the work that we started at U of H with our full support partnership that we were talking about for survivors of sexual assault. We want to try to create that framework and bring that to the federal level to make sure that we're making more resources available, making sure that we're there for survivors and helping them get the resources they need if they choose to go after the person that did this to them.
Amen. Amanda, what you got? Any follow up or anything for us?
No, just thank you for your level of dedication. It's just great hearing that someone actually cares. So thank you.
Way to go! Thanks for calling in. I think, did we have another caller there, Miss Producer? I think we had another caller, or maybe not. Let's just see. Oh, here we go. Keep those calls in, Houston. You can call, of course, 832-570-8075. Whatever you got for Mr. Isaiah Martin, the man with the plan in District 18.
Let's go.
What's that now? Brother Chris, are you there?
Yeah, good morning, Gilbert, and good morning to Mr. Isaiah. Good show as always, Gilbert.
Well,
but I want to make sure that, I want to just add something to it. I heard you guys mention the previous candidates that held the office, and you left out Congressman Craig White. You mentioned Barbara John, you mentioned Mickey Lynn, you mentioned Sheila Jackson, you mentioned Sylvester Thomas, but you left out Craig Washington, okay? For Craig Washington, he had to see it for Sheila. And I must say this, Sheila did a good job while she was there, but we must always give Craig Washington, his due, his proper, because he refused to kiss the ring of Ken Lay and Enron during that time. Sort of what Donald Trump has some people doing, not kissing the ring. So the fact he would not bow down and kiss the ring of Ken Lay and Enron goes out and gets Sheila Jackson Lee to run against him. So we're going to always respect him and going to always commend him for being a real man and not bow down to the money. Nothing against Congresswoman Lee, but they went to get Congresswoman Lee to run against Craig Washington because he would not bow down to the power to be. That was Ken Lay and Enron. I'm pretty sure Mr. Isaiah Moore know about that as well. So we can't leave Craig Washington. We mentioned the previous coming to they held that seat. And you left out Craig Washington. Well,
I appreciate that. Before you go, so let me ask you this, Brother Chris. Craig Washington, what aside from being strong, which is what I'm going to just summarize what you just said, what else was he really known for? And I apologize that I'm not fully aware. So please tell us.
Well, Craig Washington also, he got started in Texas as a representative state of Texas. Then he also became a Texas senator. Okay. He was a senator in the state of Texas, and he's always been fighting for the civil rights to others, and he got a lot of legislation. As a matter of fact, it's because of Craig Washington that you have that commissioner court seat in Harris County that right in Ellington hold today. It was held by Commissioner L. Franco Lee, but because of the action of Craig Washington along with others who got a lot of legislation passed that opened doors for black people and other people, brown people as well, including the Sheila Jackson Lees of the world. So we cannot forget the great works he have done for the state of Texas and for the community of everybody in the state. You go do the homework, you see all his accomplishments. So we cannot ever overlook that.
You know what?
Always remind men to have the courage to stand up to the Ken Lays of the world, not bow down, because since he would not kiss the ring, they said, well, we'll go get somebody to run against you. Kind of like what Donald Trump, Elon Musk, them are doing now, present folks. So as he stated when he did lose the seat to Sheila, he said, well, I'd rather lose standing than on my knees begging.
Well, let me interrupt you there, Brother Chris, because you know something? The one thing that strikes me about you more than anything else here on this call is it's important to respect and remember history.
That's right.
And, for all those knuckleheads that say critical race theory, to me, that's really just history. And, to the victor goes the responsibility of history.
That's right.
And we've got to keep those leaders that were the trailblazers, their mission and all their hard work and all. We got to keep that alive.
Yeah.
Did you know Craig Washington at all? Because he probably was too far back, right? But did you know him?
Yeah. Look.
Because I did not know him.
Yeah.
I really wasn't of age here, so to speak.
Yeah. Congressman Washington is somebody who did a lot for our community, and I think that we have to honor his legacy.
Amen. Amen for that. Brother Chris, what else you got?
He's also one of the best trial lawyers in the United States of America.
Amen for that.
Right.
Well, Brother Chris, thank you for calling in. We appreciate all your wisdom.
Thank you for taking my call.
Oh, of course, always, always. And if there's any other calls, just call right in and we'll put you right through. Critical race theory. I mean, when you hear those sorts of terms, I saw something. And I'm going to, for the next episode, I'm going to read these words because I don't have it in front of me. I saw that there are certain words that the Trump administration are going to remove.
I saw that.
From they're going to just remove these like 100 words from the public documents.
I saw that.
And there's such basic words like racism.
Right.
I mean, it's like, how can you remove such a thing like that when it happened and it's real and it's part of the history? It doesn't mean that we want to go back to it. It just means it was in part of how we are and where we are. I was appalled at that.
Yeah.
It reminds me of that, the George Orwell and the book about, 1984.
That's
and
right.
when you hear that term Orwellian, which, where, it's just frightening to me.
Right.
What do you think about all that?
I mean, it's terrible. I mean, these guys are, look, they're just trying to do everything they can to erase our history, and they're trying to use this to distract from the fact that they're destroying our economy, that they're making our country worse. I mean, we have veterans that are worried about their VA benefits, and you ultimately look at the situation with the planes. I mean, the planes are falling out of the sky.
Yeah, what is going on with those?
It's nuts, isn't it?
I mean, I just, there was that movie by M. Night, I won't be able to say his last name right, and he did that thing where the planes are falling out of the sky. It is crazy. What is going on?
I mean, look at what they're doing.
Are we just cutting back all the FAA, all the air traffic controllers? Is that what it's about?
I mean, we just had some planes that were grounded out of Bush Airport because the FAA literally did not have enough people to go forward and run the operation.
How can that be? How can that be?
This is the work of Doge and Trump and all these people. They're scamming America and they're destroying things in front of plain sight.
I mean, it's if you hear this, I want to call it rhetoric, but it really isn't. But you hear it all the time when people say things like, "This election is the most important election."
Yeah.
This election, you kind of hear that and you get immune to it because people always say it's the most important election. But you know what? This is kind of an important election.
It is.
I mean, it really is.
Right.
Because this seat has to be maintained by the community, the Democratic Party, and if we lose this seat,
oh, that's right.
It could be catastrophic going forward.
Let me tell you something.
Go.
We got, for the first time ever in District 18, less than 70% of the vote for the Democrats this last cycle.
Wow.
Less than 70% of the vote. What did that do? It resulted in so many judges that were literally ended up losing their seats. Appellate court justices that literally lost as a result of this.
Oh my
because
goodness.
we could not turn out our voters. We were not able to turn people out. It was catastrophic for our community as a result of that.
Well, I think your point about it's far greater than just the seat.
Oh, yeah.
I think that's a good one.
Because this district is a political anchor for the city of Houston. We must turn out our people because when we do that, that helps other races indeed.
Mm-hmm.
We have to do it.
And what do you think, what happened? I mean, what do you think attributes that fact you just said? Why now? Why did we get such a low turnout? Was it the top of the ticket? Were people bored? Were people not enthused?
No, I think that Kamala Harris is great. I think that Colin Allred was great, but I think that ultimately, I don't think we did a good enough job of reaching out to people where they are. And I think this. Oftentimes in politics, we talk to ourselves as politicos, right? But we don't necessarily talk to people who are not thinking about politics every single day.
Mm-hmm.
We have to engage them, not when it's just election season, not just when it's time that we need something, but letting them know about the things that are happening, coming on platforms like yours to talk about the things that matter. And when I'm in Congress, I'm going to make sure that that's our top priority.
Amen. I have a real good friend of mine. Yeah, isn't that great? Thank you to the audience. I have a good friend of mine who is works for the VA.
Mm-hmm.
Don, if you're out there, you're doing the Lord's work. And, they are at the end of their rope, meaning they are working so hard. They have more, I don't know the right term, cases than case workers can even handle.
It's terrible.
And they're always getting these emails now about, you got to show up to work. You got to do this. You got to show me your 5 things you've been doing.
It's crazy.
And they're all just sort of waiting, unfortunately, kind of for, is an axe going to come down or not?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's what a terrible thing for a morale. And if you really start cutting back those case workers, what's going to happen to those vets who need help and support?
Wait times are going to go through the roof. It's
Right?
going to be something like they've never seen before. It's going to be horrific.
And then they're all going to call your office.
That's right.
And you're going to be able to say, not be able to say, you're going to be, unfortunately, you're going to have to say, I'm going to try to help you with my resources, but
Right.
this is what's going on.
Right.
And how do you say to them, that's exactly why we got to organize and vote.
That's it.
That's exactly why.
Yeah. I mean, because this is all their fault. I mean, I think it's just point blank that we have to be able to communicate those things to people, because this would not be happening if they would not be doing what they're doing with Doge. That hasn't even resulted in any real savings. It hasn't resulted in anything. Hasn't done anything about efficiency. What they are doing is completely bringing an arsonist mentality to government, and it's hurting the people right here in our district.
And they're just creating a lot of fear.
A lot of fear.
A lot of fear. A lot of it. Remember, I manage money for a living. Everybody
That's
knows that. And it just creates this whole uncertainty,
That's right.
which is spooking the markets. It's making people delay purchases, and it's probably going to lead us into a recession
That's
because
right.
everyone's too afraid to make a move.
How's the tariffs been for you?
Well, for us, the thing about tariffs, and yes, it will lead to some inflation adjustment, meaning higher. But in reality, the biggest impact of tariffs will be, it's like a tax on all
Right.
people worldwide, because we're going to put some, they're going to put some.
Right.
So everybody's paying this tax. And in reality, it's probably going to put us in a worldwide recession.
That's right.
That's really going to be the end result. So the biggest problem with the tariffs, and of course, for those of you who do not know, when there's trade going on, if you buy goods from abroad, a tariff means it's a tax.
That's right.
And so if you have tariffs, that just means we as citizens are paying more for goods that would be less if we didn't have it
Right.
otherwise. And
Perfect.
so if you have enough of these, the bottom line is it's going to eat up people's discretionary income and all the things. Then they won't have money for other things
That's
that they
right.
normally need, like food,
That's right.
shelter,
That's right.
just everyday transportation.
Right.
Those are the things that people need all the time. Your shelter is probably the number one thing you need.
Mhm.
You need your food.
That's right.
That might be number one. Food, and then typically transportation
That's
to get
right.
to work or get your kids where they got to go, and then you're not going to have the resources to do that, and so it's a really tough time. But so for us, we are regrettably in a view, our firm
Mhm.
view is that things are going to slow down. So this is the time. I'm not trying to scare anyone, but to sort of play it safe with your
Yeah.
pocketbook. And this is the time to get engaged.
Right.
Whether it's coming out for Isaiah, whether it's getting involved in your kids' school, the PTO or whatever it is, the parent-teacher organization. This is the time to get involved.
Right.
More than ever. I think we have another caller coming through in just 1 second. But going back, how do you balance when you talk about how big this district is? The needs of the district vary greatly, right? Between what downtown needs, what Acres Home needs.
Right.
How are you balancing all that?
Well, the biggest thing is we're going to have to, as soon as I get in there, build a very large constituency office in which we can really focus on every single part of the district. We have to make sure that we're visible. I know that's what Congresswoman Jackson Lee did, and we want to continue that same type of approach. We have to be an office that is visible in the community so we can hear the concerns of the community, because it's very important, because sometimes Washington, D.C. can feel as if it's disconnected.
Mm-hmm.
We want to make sure that Washington, D.C. and the work that we're doing is available for people to tell us how they're feeling so we can absolutely work to help them every single day.
It's easy to fall into the trap that Washington, D.C. is a million miles away. It's so easy here in Houston, Texas. And it's so easy, I believe, for representatives, our members of Congress, to be in that bubble of inside the Beltway. You think everything inside D.C. is where everything is. You really have to stay close to the district.
That's right.
And remember Tip O'Neill, the great Speaker of the House, and he just said that all politics is local. Because it is.
It is.
And I think that's what made Sheila so great, because she knew that. Mm-hmm. And so hopefully you'll take a page from that playbook.
100%.
We have another caller already. Was there a Linda? A Linda. Linda. Linda, you there? Every time I hear that name, Linda, excuse me, Linda, there's that TikTok or whatever it is with a little kid is going, Linda. Linda, are you there?
Hello?
Linda, you got me. Gilbert Garcia, tip from me, with Isaiah Martin, who is, of course, a candidate to run for District 18 member of Congress. And Linda, what do you have for us today?
Well, certainly the field is flooded because we in District 18 have had a representative who was a representative. I remind you also that COVID shots were not available and the tests were not available until Sheila Jackson Lee, the only congressperson that we had in Houston area. The rest of them then finally kicked in, went and sat in the parking lot. Now, I love...
I'm so glad you brought that up because I went to Booker T, the school, and there she was in the gym.
That's right.
And I mean, she was like on patrol, making sure everybody was getting their shots and everything. I'm so glad you brought that up because it is so true. Keep going, Miss Linda.
I'll bring you up one other, and then I'm going to get to why I called. Thank you, Isaiah. You're a young man. The field is flooded with y'all. But the other one was when the grid, your governor wanted us all to feel that we weren't going to get electricity in Houston or in Dallas because we were Democratic cities until 10 days later. And she said, "Oh no, you can call on these other grids." And that one, but they never give her credit for that. I know she went to funerals. Okay, that's fine. But she was and she stood in spite of the impossibility. She didn't count it. Well, there's no sense in fighting this because we won't be able to do that. North Forest remained open, the largest black school district, because she had put a hand in it. The superintendent came in, but all right, now they have sent the first missionary I ever had in Texas when I moved here. And they have reduced her Social Security with this bland letter of the state of Texas. They've reduced her Social Security payments down to $4 for this month and $400 for next month. I'm going to tell you the difference the way Social Security operates in regions. In the region that Sheila and I come from, we're both New Yorkers. I didn't go to Jamaica. I only met her at campaigns and different events. I didn't go to school with her, but she went to Jamaica. I went to Francis Lewis. But anyway, they sent you a letter reducing. They told you what it was specifically for, what was the amount of the overpayment, not what they were reducing your check down to. And you always had an opportunity to say, well, I don't agree with this. And they told you an opportunity before you got how does somebody expect a 90-year-old woman to live on $4 for the month?
That's unbelievable. It's outrageous.
Gilbert, can I send you a copy?
Yes, please do. I'm going to give you my email right now.
I have your email. I sent you before from my girlfriend who died before they did build her house, but she died before they did it, these Republicans.
Oh, my goodness.
And,
please send it to me.
It's crazy.
Well, I will send...
Miss Linda,
I'll send you a copy.
Please do. And I know that you're very well well versed on lots of things because you've called in before, as you know. What do you think is what can you say as a community activist for Isaiah here? What does he need to make sure he does to be an effective member of Congress?
That's right.
Well, first off, you're asking, when someone told me, why didn't Sheila just leave it to so-and-so to fill the shoes? I said, first off, the woman is that's hard shoes to fill. And there's a lot on that job that you are going to have to do experientially. I don't know if Harvard has still got the same sort of law school because she comes out of Harvard, she and Sylvester. She was a community college grad. But which in New York doesn't make it, 90% is what you need to get into community college there, 94.0 average. But what you do need to do is you have your Texas congressman and make amends to stay together on certain things.
Mm-hmm.
You are going to have to stay together. You have Texas congressmen, you have, and I can't really give this no one-liner. Go to funerals. That's how come she went to funerals, but look, it's everyone's funeral. But the major thing she did, people are not understanding. I have people still as a community activist, homeowners telling me we needed water. How do you don't have a pallet of water for $3 and you own your own home? Where's your mind?
Mm-hmm.
It's absolutely,
why are you going to grapple with a with a federal congressperson who is talking about our federal funds and what needs to be done, and you have 200 or is it 300 some other odd people in there to gain a majority for your vote, and you're going to worry about some water? That's like going and picking the whole field of watermelons, and all they do is give you a watermelon after you pick them.
Boy, oh boy, are you right. I so appreciate you calling. What else do you want to say to Houston there?
Well, we always have important votes. It is always important to vote. It's always important to vote, and it's important to know to stop watching so much television and understand. I heard on the show before you the woman saying that the Hispanics will take away the ADA. No, as a matter of fact, they don't. They're having more children than black people are, so we certainly have more the daily rate of attendance in public schools. They don't. As a matter of fact, they bring more to it because you get another layer budgeted to you when you have bilingual. What this man did was fire all your bilingual certified teachers. And the Hispanic community is not out there for them.
And, I never understood why people are against bilingual education, because if you have young people that know a different language, why wouldn't you want to continue their brain continue to grow and keep going with their language that they know, and then of course transition and also teach them our native tongue, which they will learn very quickly. But the point is, why stop their progress?
Doesn't make any sense.
It doesn't make any sense to me either.
We should be proud.
Well, of course, you know why it makes sense? Because you want to do the same thing that you did with athletes and everything else. You want to curb because you want to curb the standard. You want the privilege of walking into a job that you are unskilled for, that you cannot do, that you don't have the education for, that you don't know what it is. You don't know whether your elevator's going up or whether it's going down. So that's what you want to do. You want to say, well, they don't speak, or either black kids, they do random sampling tests on them continually, and then you say, we took it out for the low test scores. The whole state of Texas has not passed the standardized test, okay?
Oh my
the whole state of Texas. So why are you going to single out them and the Hispanics? It gives you the ability to get a privilege. You get now what you were not qualified to get. Cronyism, it's called cronyism, it's called nepotism, it's called everything else, but it is not called I qualify for this job.
Well, Miss Linda, you are very wise. I so appreciate you calling in. I hope you call in some more in the future.
Oh, you got me. But I thank you so much, Gilbert. I thank you for you writing the people. She had gotten another appointment, but they just slow dragged it, and she died, and not quite unexpectedly, because but she did have a bad heart. I think it was the mold. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for calling in.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, and I'm going to send you that for missionary on her thing being reduced. We don't have anybody in state that can handle this.
Yeah, I'm going to mention it on the show next week.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
You're welcome. Okay, Houston. It's now, of course, 832-570-8075. We're on with Mr. Isaiah Martin, who, of course, is candidate for District 18, member of Congress. He's been working for C.S. Jackson Lee in Congress for the last 4 or 5 years. I know we have another caller already. So let's go to the next caller, and then we'll come back to some more things, Isaiah. Is there a Letitia on? Letitia.
Yes. Hi, this is Leticia. Hi, Gilbert.
Letitia, how
And
are
hi,
you?
Isaiah.
You got
I'm
the
well.
Garcia a tip from me with Mr. Isaiah Martin. How are you doing? And of course, I've had, if this is the Letitia I know, Letitia from the Air Alliance. I've had her on the show many times.
Oh, yeah.
Letitia, what are you doing? What's the latest with you and the whole Air Alliance? What do you got to share with us?
Thank you so much for letting me speak today. I wanted, well, first of all, the previous caller. Wow, that's hard to follow up. I mean, she said a lot.
She's got a lot.
And a lot of, yeah, she had a lot of relevant points. So, you know, as you're aware, or I know Gilbert's aware, that a lot of the work that I do is around environmental concerns for our Black and Brown communities.
That's right.
Specifically around the port and Pleasantville right now regarding the Port of Houston's Project 11. And so I'm just curious, you know, and I hope that, you know, those that are running for this very important race, right? Because yes, as everyone has said, you know, previous congressmen and congresswomen, you know, we're doing everything possible to make sure that we're not against what the port is doing. We're not against the port. We understand that the port is a huge economic engine for our region. At the same time, it's been off of the backs of Black communities' health, and of course, Hispanic community as well. And so the unfortunate thing is that, you know, Representative Jackson Lee did speak to a room of 250 plus community members back in the summer of 2023 to basically let the Army Corps of Engineers, the Port of Houston directors, as well as the City of Houston's Health Department, to let them know that the continuing of the contaminated dredge material was not going to continue to be dumped in her district.
That's right.
And so that is something that we are very passionate about, because for obvious reasons, there's cancer clusters popping up, and we all know where they're at, right?
Absolutely.
And so, and I know that Councilmember Plummer has been, you know, highlighting and documenting a lot of the things that have been happening and coming into communities and, again, elevating these things. And so I'm just curious where your, I guess, you know, trajectory or what your plans, if any, are, you know, to come out to community and really, you know, do the necessary, you know, rolling up of the sleeves, if you will, to figure out what the best way to be able to tackle this. So we do have some Newport. Oh, go ahead.
No, hold on. I want to drill down on this. And Houston, I know that Isaiah's got about 3 to 4 minutes here because he's got to leave a little bit early for a luncheon that he's speaking at. So Isaiah, I'm going to let you answer that question, but just give us some background for our listeners, though, what you mean here, Leticia. So number one, is the port in the district?
Yes.
Okay, so it is in the district, number one. Number two, when you talk about dredging, so that means they're digging out more dirt to make it deeper, right?
Right.
Correct, which we're not against.
Yeah, and when you do that, you're getting some of that soil at the bottom and some of that's contaminated. Is that correct?
Yeah.
All of it is contaminated, yes.
And so then,
and just real quick, we spent $30,000 of our own money getting it tested, and it is definitely highly contaminated. But yes.
Okay, so then hold on. So then, before that dirt, which is contaminated, was dumped where in the district?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, it is currently being dumped in Galena Park and Pleasantville. Now, just really quickly,
my grandparents grew up there.
In Pleasantville.
Yeah. My grandparents raised my mom over there.
Go ahead, go for it, Leticia. I'm just trying to get everyone up to speed.
No, absolutely. And I certainly want to give you an opportunity to speak, so then you're very well aware of the historical, you know, discriminatory and racist policies that have happened to Pleasantville in regard, I mean, going back, you know, since the conception of the building of this, said community, specifically because Black community could not buy anywhere else in the city, right? And so shortly after that is when the dumping started. And back in 1963 is when the levees broke,
Oh, yeah.
and Pleasantville community was inundated with contaminated mud,
Right.
and people have gotten sick because of it, and they've gotten no apology,
None.
no explanation,
It's been terrible.
nothing.
Well,
Right. So, yeah.
I certainly want to make sure that I can reach out to you and be able to get all the wealth of knowledge that you have. I certainly want to connect. The biggest thing is that we know for a very long time that the state has shown that they will not do anything about this. You know very well that Congresswoman Jackson Lee was on them relentlessly. And as a matter of fact, we have to make sure, because we just got a lot of news out of Washington, D.C., that Trump just closed the Environmental Justice Office that was doing so much work with the EPA to get the readings that we had seen to get to the federal level so we can hold these people accountable. So I want to be very clear that when I go to Washington, D.C., not only am I going to fight to bring that back, but when we take back the House in 2026, and we will do it, I will ensure that this is a big part of the budget that we try to go put forward, because I want this president to understand that if we are going to get a budget through, we must make sure that the people of our district are having their voices heard, and we're not funding something that is aiding and abetting companies that are polluting our area like never seen before, and we have to get on top of that. So I'm going to be your voice and your champion on that, and I'm proud to work with you.
Wonderful.
Well, that would be great, and I would love to have a conversation, obviously, after this, just so you'll know. We're all obviously a nonprofit, and yes, Congresswoman, was very helpful. At the same time, to your point, there's just been a lot of underhanded things that have been happening since she's been gone, and so we're afraid for obvious reasons.
Yeah.
And so at the same time, to your point, there's just so much going on at all at one time. Community's frustrated. They're concerned. And she made let me just leave you with this really quickly, that she made a promise to community that day and said, you have my word, in front of the Army Corps, Port of Houston, City of Houston, and said that if things do not go in the way that she expects them to go, she will call a congressional hearing. And so that is what community is looking towards. That is what, those that are entrenched in this not necessarily just the word, but
you're 100% right, because you also know that Congresswoman was very receptive to doing these field hearings right here in the district. And I want to be a voice for that as well, because it's time to bring Washington, D.C. right here to our community so they can hear the stories of people that have been getting in these cancer clusters, because families have been essentially wiped out because of this pollution. Right. And I want to make sure that I can be that voice for you.
And Letty, I want you to stay on if you don't mind.
Sure.
I know that Isaiah has to leave here in about a minute or two. I'm going to give him the opportunity to give the last word to Houston, and then let's you and I jawbone for another 3 minutes. Is that okay?
Sure, absolutely.
So just stay on. So Isaiah, it's hard to believe that an hour has gone by.
I know, it's crazy. I can do this all day.
You just got here, right?
Yeah,
but it's an hour already.
I love it.
And we'll have to have you back.
I love to.
And number one, before you look at Houston and give your sort of your last word, just remind everyone, what's the website? What's, how do they reach you? Who's your manager? Everything, so they can, people can get involved in the campaign and be aware of what's happening with you and your positions for the district.
Absolutely. Well, you can go to isaiahmartin.org, ISAIAHMARTIN.org to get involved. You want to sign up to volunteer, go there as well. And also, if you want to send something to our campaigns, email it to info@isaiahmartin.org. We check that every single day, and I want to make sure that I hear you guys' concerns. I want to hear the things that you're concerned about. I want to hear the things that are on your mind. I want to hear the things that you think about before you go to sleep. That is what I want to fight for in this district. And in order to do that, I have to hear from you, and I want to make sure that we have the most accessible congressional office that we have ever been able to see in this decade. We want to get that done. So I'm running for Congress because, frankly, we're at a moment in time in which we cannot have weak leadership. We have to have somebody that will fight for the people of this district, because a modern day determination of this decade for this district is fight versus flight. Will we elect people that fight, or will we elect people that will fight for this district, that stands for you, that is unapologetic for you, that has the energy for you? That's the kind of member of Congress that I will be when you send me to Washington, and I'm ready to serve you as your next congressman.
Damn, let's go take the hill. Let's go. I really need it. That was great, because you know what? We can't afford flight.
Oh.
We have to fly. This is one of those things where you have to. So I'm going to say goodbye to Isaiah. I know he's got to speak at another thing. He was very kind to fit us in. And so, Isaiah, I thank you so much for being here.
Absolutely.
I didn't mean to interrupt by taking a picture of you.
Oh, yeah. No.
They'll be waiting for you. And I'm going to continue here the next 3 or 4 minutes. And I know I've got Leticia. So, team, I know that he's got a boogie. So let's go.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. I definitely want to be back.
We'll
This
have
has
you
been
back.
great.
We'll have you back.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
You count on it. So, Leticia, I know that you're there. Are you still there?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, good. So let me ask you this. As we go, tell us more about your son, because your son, of course, thank him for his service. I know is he in the Marines?
So he's currently in the Army. He had just gotten back from deployment a couple of weeks ago just to come and visit us because we hadn't seen him in over a year. So you know that's a very I get very emotional because I do miss him, and as a mom, like it's never easy.
Oh, but listen, God bless you, right? So let me ask you this: so where was he deployed?
He was deployed to Poland.
Wow.
And so he's part of the air defense team systems, and so he does a lot of technical engineering and, in essence, really a lot of making sure that nobody can hack our systems.
Mm-hmm.
And then also, well, I shouldn't really say it, but he also, since we're off the air, but he and his team also look for ways to hack enemy systems.
I understand. And so, but we're still on the air, but I know we're just joking there at the end of the day. No, the bottom line is, thank him for his service. And
sure.
I know you love him so much because he's, your firstborn and your son and all those things. And,
sure.
I always love pictures of y'all because, you're loving everything. And he's like a tall man. I mean, he's a man now. I mean, he's not, it's hard to imagine that was your baby. And now he's a big man.
Exactly.
And, God, he looks just so mature. And then
he is.
And then
you're definitely grown a lot.
And let's say your baby. So then I know you have one that's a sophomore in college. Is that more or less correct?
Yes. Yeah, she's junior, but junior. Pretty much. Yes.
And she's of course beautiful, and of course we hope she will intern at our office. What does she want to be? Does she want to be an activist like you?
Well, truthfully, she is pursuing her PhD in clinical psychology, mainly around the reason that our Hispanic community doesn't really have the access to those resources. And unfortunately, not to paint us with a broad brush, but we don't really seek mental health services as much as other demographics do, because a lot of our community looks down upon it as opposed to looking at it as a positive. It doesn't mean that there's something wrong with you. It doesn't mean that, that you are psychotic necessarily. It just means that we all need help. We all can benefit from mental health therapy. And so that along with the fact that there's a lot of language barriers, because she has attended, office visits with her grandmother who does suffer from mental health, and has seen how there aren't enough physicians in this field that speak Spanish.
Interesting. Very interesting. Well, you look, at the end of the day, there's two parts to your health. One is your physical health, and the other is your mental health, and they're both equally as important. And so you got to take care of both of them. Well, of course, my daughter is, of course, I have 4 kids, my wife and I, and of course, my baby is my baby, and she's the only one left at home, and that's my Juju. Her name is Juliana, but we call her Juju, and she's a choir and all those sorts of things. And I mean, she is applying to all the colleges. We're going to hear a bunch this week. I'm already crying, Letty, because my baby's going to be going away. I am crying, and I'm not embarrassed to say it. And for all of you men listening, it's okay to cry, especially when your baby goes, because you know what?
Where is she going?
Well, we don't know yet. She's got into A&M. She got into LSU. We just heard she got into Washington Lee, and she got and she got into Boston University. But she's waiting for, some Ivy League schools and some others, and they're all going to find out. I believe Ivy Day is Thursday. And so,
well, congratulations to her, and congratulations to you and your wife.
I mean,
obviously you guys have done an amazing job as well, because, our kids are trying to do the things that, we have inspired them to do. Well, so that's awesome. That's amazing.
Well, she's the wonderful thing about her, she's our loudest kid. And so when she was out of town the other day, my wife and I were sitting there, and I was thinking, God, this is what it's going to be like. And we were just there staring at each other, eating dinner. And then we said, you know what? Let's call the kids. And I guess that's what it's going to be like to be an empty nester. So
it's a very lonely path, it seems like.
I know. And we're going to have in Houston, just so you know, we're going to be inviting some of the other candidates, not just the ones running for Congress, but we also have, I think, I think we're about to end. Let's tee up the commercial. And you know what? We'll see you next time, Houston. This is Gilbert Andrew Garcia. Listen to my radio show, A Tip from Gilbert. Talk, inspiration, and prayer every Monday from 11 a.m. till noon on Houston's gospel leader, KWWJ, 1360 a.m. and streaming live on kwwj.org. Listen on the legendary KYOK 1140 a.m. and streaming live on kyokradio.org. KCOH 1380 AM on Send Geek Radio 95.1 FM 1460 AM and Aliento Radio 101.7 FM and 1540 AM. Call in at 832-570-8075 and follow me on social media. See you then.